Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin. Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah. We begin our lesson in the commentary of the Aqaid of Imam al-Nasafi by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And may Allah make this lesson a reason where our sins are forgiven, where our prayers are answered, inshaAllah ta'ala. And may Allah bless us with knowledge of benefit, bless us in iman and taqwa, and protect us from all difficulties, trials and tribulations in dunya and akhirah. Ameen. Ya Rabbal Alameen. So as usual, and before we continue from where we stopped in our last lesson last week, we will do a bit of revision of what we have mentioned. We spoke about the different types of what is called as the Sophists, the Sophistaiyah, what Al-Imam Nasafiyyah mentioned, and Al-Imam Taftazani in the commentary mentioned the three types of Sophistaiyah. So basically they are called the Ainadiyah, and he starts off by speaking about the Ainadiyah. And the Ainadiyah basically it is a school of philosophy that rejects all reality of things, and they mention there are no any realities. So this is the first one. The second one is what is called as the Indiyah, agnosticism, where they say that truth is relative and subjective. It depends on if you feel or if you believe that a particular thing is substance, and it is substance, or it is an accident, or it is an accident. So it depends on the belief of individuals. So there is no such thing as the absolute truth, but truth is something that is relative and subjective. So this is the second part, in Arabic we call it al-indiyah. And then we have the another one, the last one is the agnosticism. Al-indiyah is relativism, or we say subjectivism in modern day philosophy. Whereas Allah Adriya basically it is philosophy that takes a skeptical stance for things. So basically they are saying la adri, I do not know there is a possibility there is a reality, or there is no any reality. So I do not know. He takes a person takes the stance of that he doesn't have the knowledge, and he doesn't affirm in the whether there is a reality or there is not the reality. So this is the meaning of Allah Adriya. And last week also we mentioned about the rebuttal of Imam Taftazani pertaining to the Inadiyah. So Inadiyah he mentioned with two rebuttals. Number one is that it is easy to rebut Inadiyah, because by rejecting any realities, the realities that we ourselves are feeling, and we ourselves are seeing, and we ourselves are listening to, and so on. So our reaction towards those realities is a proof that those realities are in existence, and not something that is imaginary. So I gave an example that if a person is hungry, then he will automatically find food. So there is a reality of hunger. Likewise, if a person is thirsty, then he will put in efforts to find a drink. So he acknowledged that there is a reality of thirst. So that is why he is driven to find the things that will solve the issue that he is having. So even if this particular person rejects any realities, it is a contradiction, because he himself acknowledge that there is such a reality of hunger, or such a reality of thirst, even though he says I do not believe in these realities, but the actions say that it is due to the belief of such, then a person is driven to find the causes to solve the issues that they are facing, like hunger and thirst. And when a person is cold, he will find something to wear. When a person is hot, he will remove any part of the clothes, and so on and so forth. So all these actions it shows that a person acknowledge there is such realities as coldness, such reality as heat, such reality and as hunger and thirst. So this is the first part of what Al-Imam Tazani and ribat the Al-Inadiyah. Al-Inadiyah. The second thing and he speaks and about rejecting any realities itself is a reality. Yani the ruling any of this rejection in itself and is a reality. So there's no such thing any as no realities, because even any in rejection also any there is a ruling any that brings any a person any to acknowledging any there is such any a reality any of rejection. So this is any the second thing any that he mentioned. And then any for the La Adriya any he said that we cannot any engage any a debate any with them, because any there are no commonalities any between us and them. So the way any for them any is by the fire. This is what Imam Tazani any mentioned, by any the fire. What is the meaning and by the fire? Yani it is any a parable. Imam Tazani and he is saying any that if they were put fire any on themselves, and then yani they will come any to the conviction any that there is any the reality any of fire and there is a reality any of heat. Because any La Adriya yani they are basically denying, they are saying any that we do not know. They are saying any that we do not know. And if you ask them any the question, are you in existence? They say, I do not know. Can fire burn? Any, I do not know. I do not know any whether fire burns. Even any he sees any fire burns, he is skeptical. He is any skeptical. Maybe any this is an imaginary. Maybe this is not a reality. I do not know for sure that this is any a reality. So this is any the what you call it, the stance any of Allah Adriya. Yani present day any we call it agnostic. Any the one any who is agnostic, who takes any the stance any of I do not know. Yani a skeptical stance. So Al-Imam Taftazani and he mentioned, and you cannot debate any with them, because any there is no basis any for us any to debate any with them, because they will come any to this any skeptical any stance where you do not know any how to begin any in a conversation any with them. Some of us any maybe for the first time any you are hearing this, that there is such any people any who take any this kind any of stance where they do not believe any even any in their own existence. And imagine, even in their own existence, and they are skeptical any about their own existence. They have doubts any about any their own any existence. And you might be asking, and for example, are there such people any who are in this kind any of doubt? Any they are, even any in our country. I've met any people in Singapore. I've met any people any in Singapore, any a Muslim any who apostate, So he takes any this kind any of philosophy any of La Adriya. So even to extend any I what you call it, I asked him any, do you believe in your existence? So exactly any what he's saying is that I do not know any whether I am in existence or not in existence. So I do not know any. You have met such people, but subhanallah, any by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, any before I was learning any the matan of Aqaid Nasafiyyah, I have any this question as to, are these people any in existence? And I mean, are they around in our time? Because I was thinking that Al-Imam Taftazani and 700 years ago, he mentioned any about all this. So I was thinking maybe last time any they are such, but now I do not know any whether they are to such an extent where people doubt their own existence. This is the thing. Of course, nowadays, and when people talk about agnostics, they speak any about the existence any of God, that they are skeptical, they do not know any for sure, and these kind of things any that they are saying. But there are any agnostics any in terms any of their belief any in God, but they are not any agnostic any on some other things. So it is not 100% in agnosticism. So they are agnostics any on certain things, but they have conviction any on the sciences any, for example. But you have any people any who is 100% any abiding any by these laws any of La Adriya. Even any they doubt their own existence, they doubt any their existence any of their parents, they doubt any the existence any of their relatives, they even doubt the existence of this universe. You ask them any, is the sun any in existence? Any they say I do not know. Maybe it exists, maybe it doesn't exist. You ask them any, for example, is it if it is raining any, for example, or you are in the day, for example, you ask him any, are you any in day or night? Say maybe any I'm in a day, maybe I'm at night. I do not know. Or maybe any there is no day and there is no night. So this is how any you engage. When you engage any with such any people any La Adriya, then you will find that it's very any difficult any for you any to come any to a point where you can both any agree any to something where you can begin their conversation. Because in all any things any they will they will have any this skeptical stance. So that is why you find Al-Imam Taftazani and he mentioned you cannot any engage any in a debate any with them, because any there is no point any of similarity any between us any and them. So he gave any example any of the fire, because fire of course any has been they will doubt any in the existence of fire. They will also say, for example, fire burns, maybe it burns, maybe it doesn't burn, maybe there is no such thing as fire, maybe there is. So how any do you ascertain, and you give them any the conviction that in reality, in conviction, and there is any fire any that burns? So Al-Imam Taftazani any mentioned any by burning them. So this is any what you call it, not again, and I would like to say that he's not saying any to burn them, but this is just any like what you call it, a lesson any for them, in a sense that if any the fire any touches any their body, then only any they will come any to the conviction any that there is any fire and there is a reality any of heat, because certainly any people any will try any to do something any to ward off any the heat any from their bodies. So these are contradictions, yani all these any Sophists, they are putting any themselves any in contradictions any when they deny the reality any of things. And then after that any he mentioned asbabul ilmi. So after any he spoke any about the realities any are in existence, and their what you call it, their characteristics any are affirmed, khilafan any li Sophists, in difference any to the Sophists any who reject any the existence any of realities, whether they reject any totally or they reject it in terms of relativism, or yakni they reject any in terms any of what you call it, skepticism in these things. So all these any are contradictions. Then after that, and he mentioned any what are the causes any of knowledge, that by these causes and we are able to understand the haqa'iq, that we are able any to understand any the reality. So earlier and he spoke about reality. So how do we understand any the realities? What are the reason and the causes that you are able any to understand those realities? So of course after this any he will mention any the three any causes, any that is the what you call it, the intellect, any point number one, and then we have any the senses, and then any we have the transmitted any reports, mass any transmitted reports. But before that, we look any at the commentary of Al-Imam Taftazani. So for your information, any I changed any my mind, any for those any who are following any I changed any my mind, any for some reason I fell in love any with Imam Taftazani. I fell in love any with Al-Imam Taftazani, and because earlier any I was mentioning that we want to focus any on the matan of Aqaid Nasafiyyah, but what you call it, I changed any my mind in the sense that I want any to cover the commentary of Al-Imam Taftazani on the Aqaid of Nasafiyyah. But and since I was thinking, and since any you have any the PDF any with you, so it is easy any to follow, inshallah ta'ala. Easy any to follow, inshallah. May Allah any make it easy any upon us, inshallah. So even if something is difficult, any Allah can make it easy. So let me give you a brief explanation about what is coming now. Al-Imam Taftazani, when Al-Imam Nasafiyyah and he mentioned asbabul ilmi, he begins commenting any on this proposition by speaking any about the definition of knowledge. What is the meaning any of knowledge? Of course, this is a field of epistemology, where what you call it, our Islamic any scholars any from last time any has spoken any about what is the meaning any of knowledge, and how any people attain knowledge, and what are the causes any of knowledge. So all this any is, we say we can call it any Islamic any epistemology. Is a Islamic epistemology, and you will find any our religion any mashallah any the religion of Islam, what you call it, is a religion yani that is within what you call it, the explanation yani of reasoning. So Islam any our belief any in Islam any, it is not something that contradicts any reason and the intellect. Different any from other any religions any we can give any a lot of examples. They are contradicting any the aql. But in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned liqawmi ya'qilun. Yani this Quran and is for the people any who possess any the intellect, al-aql. There is nothing any in Islam any that contradicts any the intellect. So there is no such thing in Islam as blind faith. Everything any has dalil. Whether either it is dalil is, there are two types any, of course. We have dalil any based any on the sacred text, dalil naqli, and then any we have any dalil any based on reasoning. That is any dalil dalil yani aqli. So now he begins by speaking about the definition of knowledge. So let us see what he says. He mentioned two definitions basically. Al-Imam Taftazani mentioned two definition, and there are so many differences between these two definitions, and then at the end he summarized it. So let us look at the first definition. So as usual, I go back to the Arabic text. What you can do is you look at the translation. Tamam. So he said wa huwa yani al-ilm. Dhamir here goes back to al-ilm. Wa huwa sifatun yani knowledge is an attribute. Knowledge is an attribute. Type. When we say any attribute, it differs from substance. It differs from substance. Any knowledge is not any substance, and it is an attribute. Usually, like in what you call in Aqidah, we tend when we translate this to English, and usually we use the word accident. The word accident. And when it comes to contingent beings, we use the word accident. What is an accident? Accident is an attribute that is contingent, that subsists within an entity. That subsists within an entity. So it subsists within an entity, meaning it does not stand on its own. So there is no such thing as knowledge as a substance, or knowledge as it is on the outside. So knowledge subsists in an entity. So for example, when you say a knowledgeable person, so it is a person. It is a human being where the knowledge is present in him. So knowledge is an attribute, meaning it subsists within an entity. It does not exist within itself, because it cannot exist within itself, because it is not an entity. It is an attribute, or it is an essence. Wa huwa sifatun, then he said yatajallaa bihal madhkoor liman qamat hiya bihi. So he used the word yatajallaa. He used the word yatajallaa. Yani knowledge and it brings tajalli. It brings tajalli. What is the meaning? A good example will be a dark room. A dark room. A person for example he enters into a room that is dark. So when he enters into the room that is dark, there he cannot see anything, because there is no light. But the moment he switch on the light, the things around him becomes tajalla. This is what tajalla. So now for example, I'm switching on the light. So this book what you call it is becomes mutajalli. Mutajalli meaning the light now it goes into this book, and I'm able to see. I'm able to see. So knowledge is like light. So in Aqidah we say knowledge is kashifa. Kashifa meaning it encompasses. It encompasses. So he says sifatun yatajallaa biha, by this attribute, by this sifa, that gives tajalli, that gives you the ability to understand the things around you, liman qamat hiya bihi, to the one whom this knowledge is subsists in. So now when we say a person possess knowledge, now that knowledge subsists within a person. So he is able to understand the things around him. So the things that is understood now becomes mutajalli. It becomes clear to him. How come it becomes clear to him? Because knowledge has the attribute of kashifa. That it makes the things known. What you call it? It makes the thing known, understood by that particular person. So for example, if a person has knowledge of mathematics, for example, he knows for example 20 plus 20 equals to 40. So this knowledge becomes mutajalli. It becomes clear to him, just like any light that shines on a particular person, that you are on a particular thing, that you are able to see that particular thing by the presence of the light. So this attribute of knowledge is like light. that it makes any the things any around you unknown to be known any to you. So this is what any he said, sifatun yatajallaa bihal madhkoor liman qamat hiya bihi. Yani who is any the one that is able yani to understand the person yani whom the knowledge any subsists in. Liman qamat hiya bihi, and he specifically used the word man to differentiate any between human beings and animals, because animals any we do not any say that animals any is an intellectual any being, but human beings any are intellectual any being. So man any here refers to al-uqala, yani those any who possess any the intellect. Then any he mentioned ay yattadihu wa yadharu ma yudhkaru, that it becomes any clear any to this particular any particular person. So just like any light. So this is a good example any of light. Knowledge any is like light any basically. So he has any this attribute of tajalli or attribute any of al-mukashafa, that you are able any to see by it. Wa yumkinu an yu'abbara anhu mawjoodan kana aw ma'duman. So whether any the thing any that is known is something any that is in existence or in non-existence. So knowledge any it can encompass any the things that are non-existence or things that are impossible to exist. So that is why when we speak about the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we say the knowledge any of Allah any is related any to all the three factions any of the laws any of the intellect. Knowledge any of Allah any it encompasses the wajibat, the mustahilat, the jaizat. So even any the mustahilat, any things any that cannot any be in existence, as what Allah mentioned in the Quran, law kana fihima alihatun illallahu la fasadata, that if there are other gods any other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the earth any and the skies any will be in destruction. So this is any an impossibility, but Allah speaks any about this impossibility, and it is it is related to the knowledge any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So likewise, when we speak any about human beings, it is possible any that you know about the impossibilities, because any knowledge any is not an attribute any that gives any effect, but knowledge any is an attribute any that give you the encompassment any of the things that is known or information. Fayashmalu, and this any includes any he said fayashmalu idrak al hawas wa idrak al aql min at-tasawwurati wa tasdiqati al-yaqiniyyati wa ghayr al-yaqiniyyah. So this any encompassment yani of understanding, when we say that this attribute any of knowledge subsists any within any a person, then this particular person any now is able any to understand the things any around him. So it includes the senses any he said. It includes any the senses. So the senses is basically, it is what you call it, a tool that you are able any by it any to have knowledge any on something. So the sense any of our sight, the sense any of our hearing, the sense any of our touch. So these are causes any of knowledge, and in a sense that when you see any something, then you are able any to know that this particular thing any is like this. You touch any something, and for example you know that this particular thing any is hot any or cold. So senses any is what you call it, the thing any that leads any to knowledge. So likewise any the intellect, yani the intellect any look any at something and is able any to understand the existence any of a particular thing. You look any you look any at something, and you are able any to understand that this particular thing is possible, or this particular thing any is not possible, or this particular thing any is impossible any to exist. So this can be done any by the intellect any that is any within any a person. So knowledge any encompass senses any and al-aql. It encompass knowledge any that we get any to our senses, and knowledge any that we get any to logical any thinking, and also any from our any intellect. So whether it is based any on simple knowledge, tasawwurat, based any on what you call it, our observation, and also based any on our affirmation. So it includes any knowledge any of tasawwur any basically what you call it, understanding any a particular thing. When it comes into tasdiq, yani it is the belief of the truth any of a particular any statement or a particular thing. So whether this is within any the scope any of conviction or non any conviction. Type. So what I will do any inshallah, I will just any give a summary any of this. So this is any basically one the first definition any of knowledge is speaking any about. So let us any go slowly any again. Now we go back any again. Then we just run through any one more time any before we go any to the second. Before we go to the second any definition. So basically, as what any I mentioned, Al-Imam Taftazani is speaking any about the definition of knowledge. Right, so number one, he speaks any about tajalli, as what any I mentioned, tajalli. So knowledge any is not something that gives effect. Yani it encompasses any the thing that is known. Yeah, meaning you possess knowledge on something, any meaning you know about any a particular thing. So it becomes clear to this what any he said, yattadihu wa yadharu. It becomes any clear to you any about this any particular thing. Whether it is something that in existence or non-existence, meaning as well he's saying that even something is non-existent, so it doesn't mean that it is impossible for you to know or have any knowledge any that something is impossible to exist or something any that cannot exist. So it includes any things any that are in existence and also thing any that is non-existence. And then he speaks any about two things. One is the senses, the other one is the intellect. One is the senses and the other one is the other one in the intellect. So basically he's saying any that knowledge encompasses any our senses and our intellect. So our senses and our intellect any are the tools any for us any to gain knowledge. The tools any for us any to gain knowledge, and the tools any for us any to come towards understanding any things, and also yani affirmations, whether it is something that is of significations or something any that is based any on affirmations. Yani in the knowledge and mantiq, if those of you and you study any mantiq, and mantiq any we have this tasawwur and tasdiq. Tasawwur and tasdiq. And when we speak about tasawwur and we speak any about what you call it, the definitions any of things, that we understand any a particular thing any as it is. So this is what Al-Imam Taftazani any mentioned any when he commented any on the meaning any of haqiqatu shay. He gave the example any of human beings, al-hayawanu natiq, any all this for the tasawwur any the signification any to be correct, it has any to be based any on a profound definition. So how do we understand any definitions? So this thing any about definitions any is part any of significations. Yani it is part any of tasawwurat. So when you understand any about a particular thing any based any on its definition, not meaning that you have any knowledge, and this knowledge any is on the tasawwur any of a particular thing. When it comes any to tasdiq any, it is the affirmation. For example, any I say Zaid came. Yani this is any a sentence, a proposition. So how do I come any to a state of affirmation? And when I see that Zaid actually has came, so I affirm any that this particular statement is true. Then he mentioned whether it is based on yaqeen or not yaqeen. So Al-Imam Taftazani mentioned knowledge can encompass the things that are not based any on conviction. In Arabic we call it any dhan. In Arabic we call it any dhan. We have the difference between yaqeen and dhan. Yaqeen is 100%, whereas dhan is anything that is lesser than 100% and more than 50%. So he said that no matter whether it is based on yaqeen or it is based on dhan, so it is also considered to be knowledge. Although later on we will find a lot of our scholars, they do not agree to this. A lot of our scholars in books of usulul fiqh, for example, in books of Aqaid, when our scholars speaks about al-ilm, they are speaking about yaqeen. They are speaking about yaqeen. But here Imam Taftazani mentioned that it encompasses also knowledge that is based on highest possibility, that is based on dhan. So we will so now this is the first definition of knowledge. And then he speaks about the second definition of knowledge. The second definition of knowledge. Then he said, bi khilafi qawlihim, yani there are other people who define knowledge which is different than the first definition. Tujibu tamyizan la yahtamilun naqid. So this is the second definition. The second definition is that knowledge sifa is an attribute. Tujibu tamyizan, that enable a person to differentiate. That enable a person to differentiate whether it is what you call it, something and it is in existence, or something is not in existence, or something and that is possible, or something and that is not any possible. And la yahtamilun naqid, and there can be no contradiction. Any meaning he speaks any about it has any to be based on conviction. Yani this attribute must be based any on conviction. So the things that is of dhann cannot any be included any in this particular definition. So this is what any he said after that he said fa innahu wa in kana shamilan li idrakil hawas, even any the second definition any encompass the senses, encompass any the senses any, because it is the senses any you are in need any of the senses any to differentiate whether something any is cold or hot, whether something any is far any or near, whether something any is loud any or not loud, and you have to depend any on your senses, and this meaning of tamyiz any to differentiate. فإنه وإن كان شاملا لإدراك الحواس بناء على عدم تقييد بالمعاني والتصورات. Yani he said that although this attribute encompass yani the senses, it encompass what you call it the senses بناء على أنها لا نقائض لها على ما زعموا. But this knowledge which encompass and with the senses, that enables you to differentiate any the things, and enables you to establish any legalities any of things, and affirmation, and also to understand the things any that are existence or non any existence. All this any must be based any on conviction. Yani he said ala annaha la naqa'id laha, there can be no contradiction. No contradiction any meaning, and it must base any on yani conviction. So this is any the difference any between the first definition and the second any definition. So the first any definition, Al-Imam Taftazani and he mentioned that knowledge, what you call it, that encompass what you call it knowledge and based on conviction, and also yani of non any conviction. But here the second any definition, and it speaks any only on the knowledge any that is based any on conviction. So it does not any include knowledge that is not any based any on knowledge that is not based any on conviction. So this is any the issue here. We have any the difference. Then after that, Al-Imam Taftazani and he tries any to join any these two meaning together. He tries any to join these two meaning together. But what is any important any for us now? Just any to what is important any is to be familiar any with the word tajalli, the word any kashifa, for example. So what we have to understand is that knowledge any is an attribute. Now it is not an entity. It subsists any within any particular person, and this knowledge enables any this particular person any to understand inegalities, and the fact that the senses and the intellect, these are tools that enable any person any to know. So whether this knowledge is only knowledge that is based on conviction or not any conviction, Al-Imam Taftazani and at the end and what he did was he make any the meaning any similar at the end, and he says that it is only based on conviction. This is what he is going to say. Ala kulli hal, I'm just giving you what you call it the summary. So when there is any these differences, and this what and he said lakinnahu la yashtamilu ghayra al-yaqiniyat min at-tasdiqat. He said the second definition, and it does not include the non any conviction of any affirmations any of things. وَهَذَا وَلَكِنْ يَنْبَغِي أَنْ يُحْمَلْ tajalli. Then he goes back to speak about tajalli, as what we mentioned. Tajalli is the encompassment of the information around us. He said لَكِنْ يَنْبَغِي أَنْ يُحْمَلَ tajalli عَلَى الْإِنْكِشَافِ التَّامِ. So we have to look at the word tajalli, that it is a complete encompassment. الَّذِي لَا يَشْمَلُ الظَّنِّ, that does not include zon. That does not include zon. لِأَنَّ الْعِلْمَ عِنْدَهُمْ مُقَابِلٌ لِلظَّنِّ. Yani because knowledge by the scholars of the mutakallimin, when they speak about al-ilm, what they meant is yaqeen. What they meant is yaqeen. So he goes back to the first definition and to define tajalli, and he said that tajalli of things is inkishafut tam. Yani it is based on conviction of understanding the things that is around us. So that is why he said that this does not include the zon, because when it comes into zon, there is a percentage of doubt in it. So at the end, and he says that knowledge and it must be based on yaqeen. Knowledge and it must be based on yaqeen. So now we go on. So the translation that you can read. I just come across any this. You see, I think there is a mistake here. This is you see there is a translation mistake in the translation. So just any take note. Yani the author Al-Imam Taftazani is not speaking any about the Sophists. Al-Imam Taftazani is speaking any about the Mutakallimin. This is clear yani from the words any of Al-Imam Taftazani. He is speaking any about the two definition any of knowledge. So for those of you any who are following and you have any the book any with you, so just take note. Just take note, this is not any Sophists, because Sophists any khalas, any Sophists, when we speak any about Sophists any doesn't even acknowledge any the existence any of realities. So they even any have they are skeptical any about knowledge any. How can we speak any about the Sophists any here? Here any speaking any about the ulama. So this is any what you call it, a big any mistake, huh? So this Al-Imam Taftazani, as what any I mentioned, yani the second definition any of knowledge speaks any about conviction. This is the thing. This is the thing. The second any definition any of knowledge it speaks any about any conviction, and there is no wrong any with any the definition. Naam. So I hope any it is clear, inshallah. So just any take any this word out. Anyway, this is not a translation any of Taftazani. If you go back into the Arabic, there is not any even what you call it the word any of Sophista'i. You see, but I do not know what you call it. How come yani the translator yani mentioned Sophista'i? So this is a mistake in the dhamir, because yani he mentioned bi khilafi qawlihim sifatun tujibu tamyizan. Qawlihim and it not goes back into the Sophista'i, and it goes back into the ulama. So this is any a big any mistake, because any we are you are making the Sophista'i and the ulama to be any the same. So I hope it is clear. So looks like any we have any to run through any translation, because any seriously I of course I don't read any the translation any before class. I only depend any on the Arabic any text. So if there is anyone any for example spot any mistakes any in the translation, just any keep me informed. Just keep me informed if I what you call it, I miss it out. Just now any I just scroll through and I suddenly any I saw the word any Sophists. Then what you call it, it shouldn't any be there any. Then any he mentioned il khalqi. So now when we go back any to what Al-Imam Nasafiyyah is saying, Al-Imam Nasafiyyah is saying asbabul ilmi thalatha. This is what he said. Correct, no? Wa asbabul ilmi afwan. Wa asbabul ilmi lil khalqi. This is any the word of Al-Imam Nasafi. So as what any we know, in brackets any other word of Al-Imam Nasafi. So the causes of knowledge lil khalq. The causes any of knowledge any for the makhluk. This is what he's saying. Khalq in here goes back into makhluk. Why any makhluk? Here Imam Taftazani mentioned. He say I lil makhluk minal malaki wal insi wal jinn. So makhluk any like angels, what you call it, human beings, jinn. Bi khilafi ilmi al khaliq ta'ala. Different any from the knowledge any of al-Khaliq, and there is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the creator. So Al-Imam An-Nasafiyyah is saying that when we speak any about asbabul ilm here we are speaking about the knowledge of the makhluk and not the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, knowledge any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sifatun azaliyah. Knowledge any of Allah yani cannot any be understood any by any the creations, and we cannot understand the reality of the knowledge any of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And knowledge of Allah is pre-eternal. Whereas any knowledge of the makhluk is contingent. So here we are speaking about the definition of knowledge of contingent beings, not any knowledge that is pre-eternal, that subsists within the entity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is what he's saying. بخلاف علم الخالق تعالى فإنه لذاته لا لسبب من الأسباب. So the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is subsists within the entity. So it is not any creation, and it is not any gain from experience and reason. Different from knowledge of contingent beings. And for us, for example, before we were born we are ignorant, we do not know anything. But after some time we begin to study, and based on our experience we understand that fire is hot, ice is cold. We understand about the coming of night and day, and how this universe basically function, and the planets and so on and so forth. So our knowledge is iktisabi. Iktisabi meaning knowledge that you need to put in effort and to study. Whereas any knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is subsists within the entity of Allah. So we cannot be saying that Allah learn to experience. It is impossible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because any knowledge of Allah is sifatun wajibah. It is a necessary attribute for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is what he said, فَإِنَّهُ لِذَاتِهِ لَا لِسَبَبٍ مِنَ الْأَسْبَابِ. Knowledge of Allah is not based on reasons, or based on certain things that he attained knowledge. His knowledge is absolute. And then he mentioned salasa. This goes back into the words of Imam Nasafiyyah in bracket. So asbabul ilmi lil khalqi salasatun al hawasu salimatu wal khabaru sadiqu wal aqlu. These are the words of Imam An-Nasafi. So the causes of knowledge with regards to the makhluk, and this is what he's saying. With regards to the makhluk, there are three types. So number one, he said al hawasu salima, yani the normal senses. The senses, and why he says salima, hawasu salima, because there are people who are blind, there are people who are deaf, for example. So when you use the word salima, you are speaking about people who have any senses that are functioning. Like we are able to see, we are able to hear, we are able to feel. Because there are people who are not able to hear and not able to see. So that is why he said hawas as-salima, yani functioning senses. Wal khabaru sadiq, reports that are true, yani the reports that comes to us that are true. And the third one is the intellect, wal aqlu. And then he mentioned bihukmil istiqra, yani this is based by study and experiment and observation. Wa wajhu dhabti anna sababa in kana min kharijin fal khabaru sadiq. So he said that if you want to explain it more, we can divide these causes of knowledge. If this is something that is present outside, that is present outside a particular person, like what he say fa khabaru sadiq, like what you call it, this transmitted reports. So transmitted reports is something that happens out of you, correct? No? Whereas your senses is within you. So there is a difference between your senses, your intellect, and khabar sadiq. Khabar sadiq is about something that happened on the outside. For example, we know that at one point of time there is a man by the name of Fir'aun. There is a man by the name of Fir'aun, Ramesses II. So when we study any history, we find Muslims are speaking about Fir'aun, non-Muslims are speaking about Fir'aun. So this knowledge comes to us based on transmission. So it is something that comes from the outside to us. This is what he said. So now the author wants to categorize these three types of knowledge. So one comes from the outside. So this is the parable of khabar sadiq. Wa illa fa in kana alatun ghayrul mudghaki fal hawas. He said that if it is a tool, if it is what you call it, a tool that we are able to understand, then it is a senses. So now he says that the senses is a tool yani, for the intellect to process that information. Yani, for example, if I touch any hot iron, any for example, so I'm touching any hot any iron, so this heat will transfer any to my intellect, and my intellect any process any the information any to tell me that this particular thing any is hot. How does my intellect any know this? Through the senses. So this one, and he said, the senses is ala. Your senses any is like a tool. It is a tool any for your intellect. So your intellect any process any that information. So this is the difference any between senses any and the intellect. He said, wa illa fa in kana alatun ghayrul mudrak fal hawas. If it is a tool where that information and is processed and by your intellect, then it is your senses. Wa illa fal aqlu. But if it is any the thing any that process any that information in itself, then it is the intellect. So this is clear, inshallah. So we have any a few more minutes. I just let me see here. I just any take any one sentence, inshallah. Any we will stop now. Any speaking any about at-ta'thir, and this is as what we studied in Kharida Bahiyya and also in Aqidah Sanusiyyah. What you call it in Aqidah, yani we say that the one any that gives any effect is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't give any effect. So he said, فَإِنْ قِيلَ السَّبَبُ الْمُؤَثِّرُ فِي الْعُلُومِ كُلُّهَا هُوَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى. Yani if it is said, and some people, and for example, have the question, he's saying, is it not that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who gives knowledge to human beings, that by this knowledge human beings are able, what you call it, are able to understand. So now the thing and it goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who gives any knowledge, the one who gives any knowledge to human beings. لِأَنَّهَا بِخَلْقِهِ وَإِيجَادِهِ مِنْ غَيْرِ تَأْثِيرٍ لِلْحَاسَةِ. So Allah is the one who gives any the what you call it, knowledge to human beings, and Allah is not any dependent on your senses to teach you or to enable you to have the knowledge of the things around you. وَالْخَبَرُ الصَّادِقُ وَالْعَقْلُ وَالسَّبَبُ الظَّاهِرِ كَالنَّارِ لِلْإِحْرَاقِ هُوَ الْعَقْلُ لَا غَيْرُ. So this is the question. The question is that isn't that Allah is the one who created everything? That Allah gives you the knowledge, whether we are speaking about the information that is transferred to you, or the intellect. And then he gave the example kannar, like the parable of the fire that burns, lil ihraq wa huwa al aqlu la ghayr, that human beings what you call are able to understand those things that is happening around him. And then he mentioned wa innamal hawasu wal akhbaru alatun. Yani this senses and this transmission of reports, these are tools. Wa turuqun fil idrak, and the ways that we are able to understand. Wa sababul mufdi fil jumlati bi an yakhluqa Allahu fina al ilma ma'ahu bi tariqi jaril adah. So now he's saying that yes, we use our senses, we use our intellect, we get all these transmitted reports. But at the end of the day, we know that Allah is the one who created in you knowledge, and this knowledge comes by your experience. In a sense that when you observe a particular thing, Allah created in you knowledge. So it is based on iqtiran. This is what we study in Aqidah. Just like we say, for example, when it comes to fire, for example, fire burns at the point of contact. At the point of contact, Allah created burning. At the point of contact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created burning. So fire is an asbab. The thing that is burning is also an asbab. But the creation of burning comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, our knowledge is a creation of Allah, but our senses are asbab. So this is the parable. This is the difference. We are speaking and we are making differentiation between the senses, which is the asbab, and the creation of knowledge, that no doubt it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is the same explanation as what we speak about last time about hukumul adi, hukumul aqli, asbab, when you eat and you become full, when you drink and you become quench. So Allah created in you quench upon any drinking. So drinking any of water is a reason and asbab. Quenching is also an asbab. But the one and who gives you, the one and who created the quenching, and the one and that gives any effect, and it comes any from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise, any knowledge and the one and who gives you the knowledge and to understand is Allah. But of course, asbab like learning, studying, using your senses, observation, knowing any transmitted any report by the intellect, you are able to understand things. All these are asbab. But the one and who gives you any knowledge at the end of the day is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Al-Imam Taftazani is what you call it, explaining the difference between the one who gives the effect and the asbab of those effect. Wallahu a'lam bis-shawab. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adhaban nar. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin.